Now let's move on to filling out our update track and delete track components so that we have full CRUD functionality for our track data. Let's begin with the update track component, and we'll get started by creating the button for it. So let's head to within our track folder of components. Let's head to update track, and we'll uncomment all of the imported Material UI components. Now, considering the fact that when we update a track, we want the ability to change the title, description, and URL, we're going to provide basically everything that we did for our create track component. So instead of writing this component from scratch, let's just go ahead and head to create track once again, and we'll grab the entire component. We'll start up at the top of create track and go all the way down to the bottom, excluding the styles as well as the mutation. So we'll copy all of that and remove update track, paste in create track in its place. We'll also want to head back to create track and bring in the necessary imports, namely useState, mutation, GQL, and Axios. So we'll copy these top 4 lines and replace our React import, or rather remove it and then paste in what we copied. And we'll also want to bring in the 2 imports for getTracks query and error. Once all of that's brought in, we'll start making changes. First of all, name the component to update track. And the main change that we're going to make between these 2 components is the fact that with the create track component in dialog, our default state should be a completely empty form. However, when we click on the update track button, the entire form should be populated with the appropriate values for title, description, and we won't have an audio file in the input, but there'll still be a URL attached. So let's head back to our track list, and we need to provide to each list item, for each track I should say, we need to provide to its update track component all of the individual track data. So create a track prop on update track and pass through the entire track object. Now let's head to update track, destructure track from props, and in order to populate title and description, we can just provide an initial state value for each of them. For title, it'll be track.title. For description, track.description. We won't provide a file since we only have a URL, and we'll leave the rest of the state values the same. We'll keep handle audio change the same. Handle audio upload will be the same for uploading our file. Handle submit should be the same. The only difference is that the function that we'll pass through is not going to be create track, but update track. We already know that in advance. Then heading down, instead of our create track button, it's going to be our update track button. And instead of a button component, it's going to be an icon button, which will contain an edit icon within the tags. And when we click on this button, we want to open our modal. So we'll add an onClick, provide an inline arrow function, and in the return pass true to set open. Then after update track button, we'll have our update track dialog. The mutation is going to be the string coming from update track mutation. And then heading down, we're going to comment out refetch queries. The function in our render props is going to be update track. Then heading down some more, we'll pass update track to the function within onSubmit, or I should say we'll pass update track to handle submit. The dialog title will be the text update track instead of create track. And heading down further, we'll leave all of our text inputs and input the same, and dialog actions will change the default text to update track instead of add track. And then finally, underneath our component, we need to create our update track mutation. So our update track mutation will have 4 variables: track ID of type int and required, title of type string and not required, and the same for URL and description. Then we'll add the name. We'll pass our variables to each of our arguments. And once again, we'll head back to our app component and pages and grab all the subfields from tracks and then supply them to our update track mutation. So we'll add the track subfield and then paste in what we copied. Then finally at the bottom, we want to just check and make sure that the component that we're exporting is update track. So assuming I didn't make any errors, let's save both of our files and let's check out how this looks. So we'll open the expansion panel for any one of our tracks. Then we'll click on our new update track button. So when the dialog opens, we should see the form pre-populated with our title text for that track as well as the description. We shouldn't have an audio file loaded, and therefore our submit button should be disabled. However, when we select an audio file, it should now be possible to click update track, and I'm going to open my console and then submit this form. And it looks like I made an error, so let me check out my network tab. Oh, and I made a mistake. It should be track singular for the field that we get back on our update track mutation, not tracks plural. And I believe I also forgot to provide the track ID for the particular track that we're updating. So let's head to handle submit, where we're providing all of our variables to our update track function. And for the track ID argument, we can get the ID value from track that we're grabbing from props.id. So once that's added, we can save and test this out again. Let's update this particular track, test 2. So I'm going to change the title to the name of the audio file that I'm updating this track with. And then for the description, I'm going to add some more description text, and I'm going to create some lorem ipsum text by going to loremipsum.io, and I'll just scroll down and copy some lorem ipsum text here, and I'll provide that to description. Then I'll select update track. We'll see what we get. So as you can see, our track was immediately updated. We see that the title changed, the track length changed, as well as the description text that we provided.